I was born in Lebanon. I grew up in war. I survived things no child should see and still found ways to shine. I wanted to shed the light on people like me who didn't have that voice in the industry.
If you had to define your personal brand in one word, what would it be?
Special.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Under the Hoodie. My name is Scott Hoyt, host of Under the Hoodie and founder of Fantasy Sports Strategies, who also produces this show. Today's show is one that I have been anticipating for several weeks because when I think of our guest today, there are several words that come to my mind which have inspired me. Accomplished, determined, perseverance, certainly energetic, and full transparency. My guest is also someone who is bringing a completely different energy to our space, fantasy sports gaming space, blending fantasy stats with storytelling, purpose, and community in a way that truly stands out. Now, I would tell you all about her background, but I don't think I can do justice to her varied and diverse background. But here's what I can tell you. She is a podcast host, a project manager, a Zumba instructor, a teacher, a mom, and creator of the Game Changer and Beyond the Beats. Wow. Please welcome to the show, Carla Hazzam. Carla, welcome.
Oh my God, Scott, thank you so much for this intro. I always listen to people telling me, great intro. This is a great intro about me, Scott. I really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thank you for, asking me to be on your show. This is such an honor for sure.
Well, it's an honor to have you. And we're going to have some fun. And as my friend Howard Bender always says, I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you. We're gonna have a good time.
100%.
But before we can look forward, with my guests, we always look back. So I'd like for my audience and my listeners, so when you look back at your career journey, what experiences outside of fantasy sports shaped the way you approach your life today?
Oh my God, where I can start? My story started before I even understood life. I was born in Lebanon, Beirut. If people don't know where that is, it's in the Middle East.
I think, unfortunately, they know now, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely, 100% right now. Everybody is listening and hearing about Lebanon.
And hopefully you don't have any family impacted by that.
I do. Yeah. We've been living with that, Scott, for 50 plus years. This is not something new, but I hope peace will happen everywhere because we want peace.
Of course. I think the whole world wants peace.
Yes. So I was born March 17, and 3 days later on Mother's Day in Lebanon, which is March 21st, doctors told my parent that I wouldn't survive. Wow. But I did. And I've always felt like I was kissed by an angel, honestly, because everything that came after should have taken me out, but yet I'm still here fighting. I grew up in war. I survived things no child should see and still found ways to shine. Running track, competing in sports, modeling, winning Miss Malihat Al-Arab, photogenic. I did everything that my heart would want. I became, like you said, a mother of three, including a son on the autism spectrum, who taught me more about love, patience, and humanity than anything else in my life. I survived illness, divorce, a major accident, and a year going off vertigo. But I walked the stage on that day with a broken arm, broken neck, with a master's degree in my hand with high honors. I completed an ARC program and now I'm finishing my PhD. I'm trying to rebuild my life. I found fantasy football and podcasting and discovered a voice I was never allowed to have. But I'm here because I refuse to stay small. I'm here because I finally became the woman I needed when I was younger.
Well, and you heard of my introduction. You and I have known each other for several months now, and you
Yes.
were you were grateful to have me on as your guest, as your podcast, and I've learned a lot about your journey. And so when I said to you, I was very inspired by your journey. I truly am, and what you just said just exemplifies the person that you have become. And you bring a different energy there. Every time I either talk to you, see you, read about you, you can feel the energy. You absolutely can feel the energy. So you
Thank
got into
you.
fantasy sports, which, as you know, is a very chaotic, fast moving, male dominated to some degree
Yes.
industry, although that's starting to change, I think, for the better, and that's great. But what shaped you to get into fantasy sports? And maybe the most importantly is the way you do storytelling. Your storytelling is what I think sets you apart. So is there
Yeah.
any aha moment? I always ask this question. Was there an aha moment that says, I have to do this and here's why?
So when I first got into fantasy football, it's because of Doug Orth, and everybody knows that Doug Orth is my significant other. After I went to Lebanon in 2021 when I moved out from my house after my divorce. And in 2021, he was telling me about the expo, about a lot of people. And he always, like, Doug is such a positive person, always speak highly about everybody. I never heard him speak negative about anyone. So he matches my energy in that. And I wanted to meet those people. Like, I wanted to meet Bob Long, Bob Harris, Jim Davenport, and more because of how highly he was speaking about them. So the next year after, I told him, that's it. You're going, I'm going. And he's like, Carla, it's a male dominant. Are you sure you want to come with me? And I'm like, yes, I want to. I want to meet the people that you're talking about. And knowing myself, I always love to, whenever my significant other love, I want to share that part with him. So this is what I did. I went the next year. I went there, not many females, but I met the people he was talking about. We sat, we went out for dinner, we enjoyed our time and we became friends. The year after I went, I was in the lobby waiting for Doug, and Greg Kellogg came
Oh,
to
yeah.
me.
Oh, Greg.
Yeah. And he's like, can I take your picture? I'm like, who is that talking to me? So I was smiling. I was in a red dress. I always dress up. And wherever I go,
Just
that's
so you
part
know, I'm
of
always in a
who
hoodie,
I
just so you know that.
am. That's part of who I am. I'm not
That's
kidding.
great. I love it. I love it.
So and I told him, can we wait for Doug Orth? And then he's like, okay. He came down, we took the picture, and that was it. Like, Doug was saying, you know who's Greg is? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I didn't know who Greg Kellogg is before, the picture. So we talked a little bit, we exchanged phone numbers, and then after a month, I tagged him on Twitter, which is X right now. And when I tagged him, he sent me a message and he's like, I want your help with Wendy Early to do a show for me and talk with, the first lady that did the fantasy football. I don't remember her name because I'm like over 100 episodes right now. So excuse me for that. But he matched me with Wendy Early and JC with the TSA team. And I'm like, I know how to do podcast. I'm always like that energetic person, but fantasy football is not, it's not something like I want to do. I want to do a podcast about Zumba. So I was talking to JC about something about Zumba, but they put me into that. And then after our first show, Wendy and we never did like hosting and stuff like that. And then he said, that's your show, you go with it. And
That's
that
a
was
great
it.
story.
Like, he
That's a great.
threw us into it.
Well, it's a great story because it had a lot of moving parts to get to where you are today. And to that point is when you first went to the expo and you noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of females there,
Yes,
women weren't there. That is starting to change fairly dramatically. Um,
agreed.
as you know, I'm part of the FSGA, and women are becoming a very important part of shaping the FSGA. When I
Yes,
was at the expo last year, there was an all women's panel, the most attended panel of the entire
yes,
weekend. There was an FSGA panel from all women a year ago, again, the most attended. So I think it's great that we have that diversity and that voice and that
agreed.
energy, and that's what you bring always. That's for sure. All right, so
I
let's talk.
appreciate
Let's
it.
start talking a little bit about the platform that you built because you focus on. You tell me if I'm wrong. You focus on people and their
Yes.
purpose. Now, was that a reaction that you felt missing in the industry, or is that just something you always knew you wanted to create?
I always knew I wanted to create that only because as a mom, as a woman, as a partner, as a Zumba instructor, no one knows who I am behind all of these titles. Who am I as a woman? Who am I as, like, I was born to be Mrs. Someone, like Carla is the Zumba instructor, or like nobody knows the backstory of a person. So I wanted to make sure that people know the backstory of that person. So that's why I wanted to shine the light about what you are behind the camera or what you are behind fantasy football. So that was part of the journey that I wanted to share.
Yeah, and I think your work, and your work is very diverse, but it sits at the intersection in my mind of content, great content. You're true to your brand, and you build community, and that's something that I think's not just consumed, but it is enjoyed and felt by the audience. Was that? And I think I know the answer to this one. I assure you, this was intentional by you. Correct?
It is. I mean, who wants to see someone crying and always saying, "I'm miserable" and stuff like that? People wants to always see that person that's always shining, smiling, and being there for them and for others. And that's part of me being the woman I am right now. I do have, like you said, a closed story behind closed doors that nobody knows about it. But at the same time, I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, like I've been bullied. I've been nobody wants to see that. We are in a world that everybody is crying, but nobody is showing up for others. And I want to show up for others if it makes sense.
Oh, it absolutely does, and I think I'm going to step back here for a little bit. I'm going to talk about your professional, background a little bit, and from a professional standpoint,
Yeah.
and this always helps listeners as well. What skills or experience have helped you the most in creating, which I think is a great podcast, The Game Changers?
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. So I do have a background. I speak three languages. Most people don't know that about me. In Lebanon, we learn Arabic and French as like it's kind of like the same language for us. So we grew up from 3 years old. We learn two languages growing up. I am someone who love education, so I always educate myself. I always ask questions. I always try to search backgrounds so I can know what I'm doing if I'm sitting in front of someone like you per se. If you ask me a question, I want to be knowledgeable at least in what I need to say. So I was a mom of three, and education was always something that I wanted to achieve. So I finished my bachelor's in linguistics. I finished my master's in linguistics, and now I'm finishing my PhD as well. Sitting home is always a woman's, whatever you want to call, from a male's perspective at times. But I didn't want to sit home only. I want to show my kids that you can be a successful woman at the same time as you can be a successful mom. So my background in education as a teacher right now is part of how I'm writing my podcast and how I want people to see that women are smart too, not just, you know, put her in the kitchen.
How much of your teaching background, you've done it for a lot of years, how much does that get incorporated in your thought process as you build out your pod? And you have another podcast. We'll talk about that there here in a second. But how does that, kind of amplify what you do with your podcast?
It's not about just my teaching, if I can say that, Scott. It's about being a mom. It's about being kind. It's about being a woman in you know that have a background in being hurt, being bullied, and I wanted people to feel more comfortable when they talk to me. And a lot of people come in and they say, oh my god, like you made me open up to stuff that I didn't want to even talk about, because I have that background of being hurt and having a child on the autism spectrum as well. I learned in my early age, um, especially that I lost my uncle when he was 14 years old to war, that life is just, I'm sorry about that. It's just, I can't forget that.
You should
Life
never
is,
forget that. Those are
it's a moment.
memories. Those are memories. Those are moments, and those are always to be cherished, good or
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
Life is just a moment. So like I said, I was at war. I'm a war child. I was seeing my friends in front of me. I've seen my uncle pass away when he was 14. I was standing at my balcony when I was shot at. A lot of stuff in my background taught me to come and talk about you, the person, how I can make you feel comfortable, how I can let you tell your story without even feeling hard about yourself, because that story have a great background that can help others at some point.
Well, and you heard what I said in the beginning. Transparency is something that I admire about you, and you are as transparent as they come, which is a great quality to have. There's not a lot of people who can say that with certainly with the same level of enthusiasm that you show.
I appreciate
So
it.
I'm going to talk about another subject here. We're going to get into your game changers, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of professionals in our industry, in our space, as you know, focus on growth metrics. It's always about metrics, metrics, metrics.
true.
And I'd love to hear kind of your story. How do you personally define success and what you're building?
For me, success, if you're leaving my show happy, that's success for me. I made a difference in your life, because one person's smile, in my opinion, can make a huge difference. I've been on X for years. I lose people. I don't gain people. Do I care? No, I don't care. Because they don't know the person I am, and I'm not gonna be hiding behind a like AI, or behind X, or behind Facebook, or behind anybody that's not showing who I really was or I am. I put one time on Facebook, I put a quote: I give you 1% of what you want to know about my life. If you didn't meet me personally, you don't know anything about my life. So that person, if they go happy and I make this friendship with them, that's a gain for me.
That is a great objective and goal. Always, it's very inspiring. Like I said in the very beginning, let's talk about the game changers, because that was your foray into this crazy industry that we both know.
Yes.
And you've done such a great job of highlighting those voices and those stories. How intentional were you about the types of guests that you would bring on and the narratives that you would want to maybe amplify?
So I want to tell you something because I love the industry. Don't get me wrong. But people ask others to come on their show if they have high followers, if they know them personally, or if they want something back from them.
Sure, sure.
Make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For me, I wanted to shed the light on people like me who didn't have that voice in the industry, who are writing behind closed doors and people don't know their names, for people who have maybe 80 followers. And when I send them this email or this message asking them to be on the show, the question is, but I am nobody. Buddy, I'm a nobody too.
No, you're
We
not.
can make somebody.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I wanted to do. It's open to every voice. It's not just, like I love Stefania Bell.
Yeah.
I love her. She's a great friend of mine. But at the same time, when I got Nader Saba, I love him too. And he got to say what he needed to say on the show. And now people are like, oh my God, I want to follow that person.
So you said earlier you've done about 300 episodes. I'm sure there's some great stories you want to tell on unique guests.
100 something.
Okay, well,
yeah.
that's
I
okay.
think you did the 300.
Maybe by the time this thing drops in 4 or 5 days, you'll have 200 more. So
Maybe. I always want to.
anyway, have you had any kind of like, oh wow, that guest was phenomenal? Present company excluded, obviously, but I'm sure that you've had some unique stories, especially when you go live, because your podcast is live, which is a whole
Yes.
different dimension, and so that creates a whole lot of fun episodes and experiences. So, any you want to share? Good, bad, or embarrassing, or whatever it is.
There's a lot, honestly. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes for some reason my camera right now it just either go blanks or kick me out of the episode. So that's part of, my guest to shine at some point, and then I come back and we laugh about it. Um one guest, like you, I always tell them I have a small opening guest introduction, and we can start the show, and the guests will talk in the middle of, of the show and answer questions when I'm talking about them as introduction. Some of the stuff that make my life a little better when I ask that last question. What secret you have, or something
Uh,
you never told anybody before, and you want to say it on the show tonight?
just so
This
you know, I
question.
received many text messages from everything from my kids who wanted to know
You
about that
did.
story to some people who know me very well said, I didn't know that. So it was fun. It was fun.
I love that because it makes the person in front of you be the human
Yeah.
who they are. Because we all have that little secret that we
Yeah.
never spoke of. So I
So you
love
do
that
the
show.
game changers, but you also do it's another one called Beyond the Beats, which I know it's part of your whole Zumba
Yes.
passion. Talk a little bit about that as well, if you don't mind.
Oh my God. Beyond the Beats, it was something that I wanted to do forever. So the first day I was talking to JC, when we had the game changers, I was poking him to do something about Zumba. Now it's not just about Zumba, it's about, like the artists themselves. Um, I've been dancing from when I was 14. I've been doing a lot of belly dance, a lot of sports. I'm someone that loves sports and dancing. So when I came to the state, I they told me about Zumba, and I became a instructor in 2016. Um, I wanted to shed the light about that because a lot of people don't know that, like Zumba instructors, we pay monthly dues for our, our music, for everything. And there's a lot of back like background stories that a lot of people don't know. The most interesting story I did have on the show, and I'm someone who always reach out to others. I would be sitting, and then I will think about a person, and I'm like, "Are you okay? Is everything fine?" I always knock on these doors because I feel something is wrong. And when I was doing that, one of my friends told me I almost took my life, and you send me a message. This gave me a slap on the face because we always sometimes ask, "Are you okay?" But are we really asking if we are okay? So that was one part that made me change a little bit why I want to do Beyond the Beats, because I want her to tell that story. I want someone that going through cancer to tell their story. I wanted them to say what's hidden behind their smile, because when I was going through the accident, the vertigo, and everything, I was teaching when I was blind by vertigo. But why we're teaching? Why we have such like strong mindset? So that's part of why I wanted to do Beyond the Beats.
Yeah, and I think between that podcast and the Game Changers, I think that you have built your own personal persona, your own personal brand. I think
Yeah.
that is extremely important in our industry and other industries. Um, and if you were to give anybody advice on how to build their own personal brand, what would it be?
I would tell them not to be scared, but to be careful as well, not to tell their dream or what they want to build to somebody else. Because when you're successful, people will not be clapping. People will say, "Oh, I was doing that with her," which is not the truth. Um, Stay to the course, do everything by yourself, build it by yourself, knock the doors that they will be clapping for your success. And this is what happened with me. I was with the TSA team. They wanted to clap for my success. They open a lot of doors for me so I can do. Zumba is totally different from fantasy football, but they opened that door for me, and I'm forever thankful for them for doing this. Um, and put yourself out there. You might have something different from everybody else. And it's okay if you don't have people coming and watching your show, because you are making a difference in someone's life. 100%.
So, I'm a big brand person, and I always sometimes like to ask people questions like this, especially somebody like yourself who's had such a wonderful journey. If you had to define your personal brand in one word, what would it be?
Um, Special.
Yeah, I would have said that. I would have said authentic.
Authentic. True.
And special is
Honest.
very. I mean, authenticity is extremely special. So that's great. You're creating content really, and you know this, and we talked about this for the last 30 minutes. Is you create these connections on a much deeper level, and
Yeah.
that's not something our industry is really used to. A lot of these podcasts really talk about the sport and stats and all that stuff, but they don't really hear the story behind what got them to where they are today. You do that. You must have saw a gap somewhere that said this is an important piece to communicate more broadly. Is that an accurate statement?
It is. And I do, like I said, I made friends with a lot of people. I do have, we exchange phone numbers because at some point we are human beings and we need that help behind closed doors. There's a lot of people that send me messages sometimes that they're going through a lot. And I am kind of like their voice, if it makes sense, to sanity, because we want that voice that, or that person that cares. And not everybody cares in fantasy football sports, because they are in a space that it's me. I want to take care of myself, and there's nobody else that I wanna care. And not everybody. I'm not saying it's everybody, but we as humans, we are selfish. We want to do what we want to do for ourselves, forgetting that that person needed that chance, needed that um, like small breath of fresh air. And we are not connecting on a human level. So I wanted that. I wanted to build a community different from a computer or a camera or just a messenger. That's part of
Yeah.
what I
Was,
want to build.
was there, through this whole process of where you are today, was there anything, whether you're as a host, a creator, or a leader, that you didn't expect going in that is now changed, that you didn't expect it going in? Whoa, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, I was called Mama Bear. I was so surprised. I was so surprised. And I can see it. I can see myself being Mama Bear because I do care like endlessly about people. People sometimes think, "Oh, she's super nice." I think she's holding a like that face in front of us, but behind closed doors she's not. I want to tell everybody I'm the same person you see on camera and behind camera. I am the same. And trust me, at 48, Scott, I tell the story one time and I don't have a hidden agenda because God knows how many times I forget even my name and what I ate just right now. So if I'm telling you something, I'm telling you something. This is going to be the truth,
Well, we
period.
said about 10 minutes ago, authenticity is when
Yeah,
someone says for me to define you, that's the one word that comes to my mind immediately. Immediately. All
appreciate
right. So
that.
we have done a great job of talking about your journey that you got to today. We've talked a lot about what's happening today. Now we're just going to look ahead just for a brief moment here. We're going to look ahead now. What's the bigger vision for you? What do you ultimately want to do with the game changers, and what do you want that to become?
Well, I want to be getting paid and have some sponsorships at some point. I want this, I want both of the game changers and Beyond the Beats to be out there more. Because, like you said, this is something that um, it's new, it's honest, it's authentic, and I want people to hear those voices instead of hearing noise. So that's what I'm planning to do in the future. I want it to be out there more.
Yeah. And then I think that's always, I think based on what I'm seeing and witnessing from you, I don't think that will be a struggle for very much longer, honestly. I really don't.
I hope so.
Last question, and although we have a couple more fun questions to get to, but from a kind of a content perspective, this show is intended to obviously tell the journey of stories that are out there, like you have done with Game Changer. But I also like to give you, the expert here, to give the people who are listening some education. And that education is if someone's listening right now, it feels like they have a story to tell, but doesn't know where to start, what advice would you give them?
Well, call me. I can bring your story to life. Like I said, both my podcasts, they talk about the person who they are. And I've been afraid my whole life to be looked at um the freak person that came from war, the person that got divorced because I come from the Middle East and I shouldn't be divorced. The person that the woman that fighting to have her voice being out there when it's a man's word. When I did my dissertations for masters, I did my dissertation between the East and the West, women equality. Because even in the US, Scott, we're saying that women voices are heard, but they're not. They're still not being heard. Because when I have a master's and another person who is a guy have a master's and I'm not being paid the same like he is paid, this is not a voice heard for women. What I want to say is don't stay hidden for long. Try to tell your story because your story matter and it can help a lot of people. And I know that you're crying right now, but crying is okay because you're going to be healed when you tell your story over and over and over again.
So you answered that question in the very beginning, call me or get a hold of me.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to make sure that we certainly promote is how do we tell our listeners, how can they connect with you? And I'm sure there are multiple ways, but how can they connect with you?
I'm all over social media at Zen Carla H. People think that Carla, my name is Carla with an H. It's not. It's Carla without the H. The H because a lot of Zumba instructors put the Zen. So Zen is not my name, but Zen. So we will not be found a lot, especially as a teacher. I don't want to be found. So I put Zen Carla, my name, and last name is H, which is Hazzam. So I'm all over social media on Zen Carla H. Just send me a message. I'm here to listen to your story, and I want you to shine.
And I would
100%.
tell listeners that if you want to tell a story, there is nobody better to listen and tell it than Carla. I can
I
honestly,
appreciate
I
that.
really do believe that. All right, here's the one last fun question. And it's going to really be dependent on how much movie watching you do watch. But I ask this to everybody. We haven't had a repeat. I don't think we've had somebody repeat a movie here, but I always ask, what is your favorite sports movie? Do you have one?
Sports movie. I do watch a lot of movies. I'm not good with names. Just letting you know. If I repeat a name, I will be good at it, but I'm not that good with names. So the sports movie I watched last, it was about two girls that came from Syria at war. And one of them became an Olympian because she wanted to become an Olympian. She came to the UK while war was happening in Syria. It's because my kids were swimmers, so this hits a big something in my heart. Like when you come from war, people don't know how much you are attached to something or to do to make a difference. And they did. They made a difference, and she became an Olympian. And that sports story was such an amazing thing for me to watch.
That's great. I suspect that we won't get that as a repeat answer anywhere else. So it's great. It's the uniqueness of that. Carla,
Yeah,
this conversation, as I expected, was incredible.
I
The
appreciate that.
storytelling that you do is phenomenal. And I think what you're building is a reminder every day that what industry you're in, whether it's fantasy sports, is about more than just numbers. It's about people. It's about their stories. It's about real connections, and it's about building community. And I love, and you know this about it, and you know I love this about you. I love the intentionality behind everything you're doing. And it's clear that your voice, whether you believe it or not, is making a real impact in this space. And I really, really, really appreciate you joining us today because it's very inspirational. As I told you from the beginning, I was very inspired by some of the things that you have done. And you can come on as a guest anytime you would like and tell even more stories. Because I'm sure I'd love to hear some of the funny stories on your podcast. I've had a few, not as many as you. I haven't built as many podcasts as you have, but I'm sure we can share that when I see you. I'll see you and Doug and Canton for sure at,
Yes, can't wait.
at the expo. And so I really do appreciate your time today. I really do.
Such an honor. Thank you so much for your time, Scott. I appreciate that.
Carla, it was wonderful to see you and great to hear from you. And thank you and talk to you soon.
Thank you
As
so much.
always, thank you for listening to Under the Hoodie. We will see you next time.